how did you get started? How did you get started making kilts? Who taught you? Did you have to go to a special school, or did you have a mentor? And once you're done with a kilt, what kind of quality control is there? I mean, do people oversee the finished product? What's it like as a process in addition to how you got started, I guess? And what do we think the future of kilt production, kilt artistry is? You know, where's kilt making going in the future? It's all going to be 3D printed. I'm telling you right now, 3D printed kilts.
And save on labor.
So basically, I think he wants past, present, and future. Like, but from a personal perspective from you guys.
I taught myself how to sew. So I came into this knowing nothing. I bought a kilt, a cheap one, and kind of reverse engineered it and started sewing kilts from that and got better and better at it. When we started the company, we used to adjust, kilts for customers and other people's, kilts that other companies made, and kind of looked at how different companies constructed things and why they constructed things. When we first started, and still to this day, I'm a bit of a sponge for that kind of stuff. I'm always very curious, and I have an engineering type brain to figure out how things are constructed and why they do certain things. So it was both an advantage and a disadvantage. It was a disadvantage in that I knew nothing going into learning how to make kilts, but it was an advantage because I had to figure out every step myself, and I had to justify why I was doing something the way I was doing it. And we just kind of, through, little tips and tricks that we figured out here and there. We got The Art of Kilt Making by Barb Tewksbury, who's a wonderful lady. Mm-hmm. So there's a lot of different ways that kind of flavored how we make kilts. And we don't do everything by the book. We do things our own way in the way that makes the most sense to us. There's certain things that we do in the way that we construct kilts that I think a lot of other companies are missing. And I like the way that we do it better. As far as Mac, he went through the School of Hard Rocks. It was, he came with a knowledge of garment construction from historical reenacting and making his own clothes for that kind of stuff. But he learned from me and from Kelly how to make a kilt, and he learned the way that we wanted him to learn, because that's the way that we wanted it to go out the door. And then kind of, you could take it from there, Mac, but he's kind of trained the rest of the kilt makers.
Yeah,
here.
I mean, everybody that comes in the door, we train the exact same way to start off with. And then you eventually kind of pick up your own little
nuances.
Yeah, along the way. But yeah, everyone goes through the same path. We're from the bottom all the way up through until we get to premieres and stuff. So you start with casuals and work your way up through. But yeah, I was moving out this way, and got called into Rocky's shop, and hey, you bring some stuff in, and he never let me leave after that. I mean, we've all kind of came into this at all different directions, so.
It's the shackles.
Yeah.
Yeah. Most of our people who applied to be kilt makers didn't know how to sew coming into it. They just kind of had a passion for this stuff and liked the company and wanted to work here. So we brought them in, tested them, and in a lot of ways, it's easier for us to teach them exactly what we want them to know versus trying to reverse engineer or unlearn bad habits or things that we don't want them to do. Mm-hmm. So that's, one of the weird things with our kilt making staff. It's not like in the U.S., as big as we are, we could just put an ad in the paper and say, hey, kilt makers needed. So you need to have experience sewing kilts.
I wish it was that easy.
Oh, Jesus, I wish it was that easy.
Yeah.
So we basically have to train people from the ground up. And that's one of the advantages we have and disadvantages at the same time is to get somebody in the door to where we want them to be, even on just our casual kilt, is effectively 3 months. So if we experience a bump in traffic and sales, it takes us a while to catch up with a new person in the door and get them to where we need them to be speed-wise, and then everybody else has to be moving up at the same speed.
Mm-hmm. And you said in the past that you think that having an engineering kind of mind is more important than being a sewer.
Yes,
it's very much about the geometry and the mathematics and the precision,
and the eye for detail.
We can
teach people how to sew. that's a skill that you can learn. Having an eye for detail, having an understanding of three-dimensionality and engineering, those are kind of more innate qualities that we can't instill in somebody or make people want to do. It's you have to either have it or you don't. The sewing is easy. We can teach you that.
Yeah, you kind of got to see where you're going, and kind of. I've joked around and said before, you got to do what the tartan tells you to do. You got to yes.
It's Zen. Yes,
exactly.
Yeah, what does this tartan want to be? I can see that with choosing pleating patterns for sure.
Exactly.
You know, what stripe is this going to look? If you pleat this to the stripe, is it going to look stupid if you use that stripe or not?
Well, beyond that, it's where do you break the pattern to sew on the edge of each pleat?
Right.
How do you make up the pattern within a 5-yarder? There's a lot of artistry and tiny little details that 99.9% of the people who own kilts don't ever see going into it because they're not, on the construction side.
One thing you guys avoid, which I've always appreciated, is that you don't have, you never do pleats where there's a line of color going right on the edge of the pleat. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I hate that.
Yeah,
I hate that when I see that on a kilt. It's just like,
it's one of those.
Couldn't you do one or the other? Yeah, the edge of like this line of color going right down.
I'll take it a step further. What he's talking about is putting a stripe on the very edge of a pleat, and then you're effectively sewing in that stripe. It's the
stripe
stripe
cut in half of its thickness.
If the stripe is on a pleat, it should be centered on the center of the pleat. The other thing that I never understood was when you look at old historical versions of kilts, it's a lot of times, kilts from 200 years ago, where there were tailored kilts specifically that I'm talking about, were not pleated to the set or to the stripe. It was just kind of pleated quasi haphazardly across the back, whether it was 5 yards of material or whatever. It just looks like a dog's dinner. And I could never understand from an OCD, inattentive mindset that I have, creating something like that doesn't have a specific pattern within the pleats and just kind of doing haphazardly across the back. It just, looking at old pictures sometimes drives me nuts with that kind of thing.
Well, I don't think you're alone because obviously the art of pleating to the set or the stripe or whatever developed. So other people must have felt the same way.
Yes, but it developed because they started using more fabric in the kilts.
Okay. So they had more options, basically.
Yes, because there was more ability to pleat to a specific thing.
I see.
But even like on our 5-yarders, we pleat it to the best way we can within the pattern. We still make up a pattern within the pleats. That's where the artistry angle comes into it. It's just, it didn't seem like, way back when, that there was as much care put into certain things as we do now.
Yeah. Different perspective and different technology. Now, given what you guys are just saying, does that mean that the second part of his question, who oversees kilts for quality control at the end, is that on the kilt maker themselves, or do you guys, Mac, do you step in at the end when a kilt's made to double check everything, or is it just kind of like they train themselves to be their own quality control?
Yes.
Okay.
So there's a little bit of both going on.
Okay.
Like I see what everybody's working on all day long. I know what everybody's working on today. Whether they know it or not, I'm still I'm checking them from afar. But
the eye in the sky is always watching.
Wow.
But I still kind of look to see where everyone's at, how it's progressing, and what everyone and how they are handling the problem they have at their station.
Okay.
Then once it's done, they obviously have checked everything, saying they're done. They initial it, check it off.
Yeah.
Then it goes downstairs, and then it goes through another process where Lucas and the guys downstairs, they double check to make sure we've pleated it the right way. As far as, did a customer ask for a certain way to have it done? Does it have all its buckles? Does it have all its straps? Does it have everything it needs to be a completed project? And are we missing anything? Are we missing flashes or a fly plate? Are all those extra little bits there? Then that goes out the door. So we have several layers that we've got to go through before it goes out that door.
Yeah,
cool.
Because we want to put the best product forward to you guys, and I don't want to put anything out there, and I've kind of trained my guys and now gals to don't put anything out there that you wouldn't personally wear yourself. I'm only going to put things out there that I would personally wear myself if I had to wear it.
Cool. Uh-huh.
Yeah, we have the way I describe it is we have we treat the customer the way we would want to be treated, and I have a very, very high standard for how I want to be treated. So if it passes our bars for quality and for for exacting detail and that kind of thing. I want pretty much anyone to be satisfied. And I'm going to go off on a little bit of a tangent story. And this is,
Okay.
I love this. I went over to one of our suppliers over in the UK. We used to get, where we got we still get sporins from them. And we took a tour of their facility. It's one of the companies that makes our jackets and hose and a bunch of other stuff, and they also make sporins. And the head sporin maker guy there was named Robin. And me and Kelly went across and we visited, and the owner, Scott, brought us in, introduced us to Robin, and we were talking for a little while, and Scott left the room, and I had several problems with their attention to detail and the skins that they were using for the fur and that kind of stuff. And I, said, okay, talking to Robin, and he said, okay, well, you're here, show me what you want, show me what skins you like, which ones you don't.
Okay.
And Kelly, I started talking to him, very honestly and straightforward about what I expected and what I wanted and what I didn't want. And Kelly, literally stepped in and said, hey, Rock, you calm down. And Robin stopped her and said, no, I want him to show me exactly what he wants, because if I can please him, I can please anybody. So I want him to show me what he wants. And my attention for detail and persnicketyness, I'll put it that way, is high, because I don't want customer complaints. I don't want people to complain about things and say, this is horrible, why would you do this? So if I can please myself, I know I can please anybody else.
Okay.
And that carries through our staff for kilt making. It carries through for all of our suppliers. It carries through for everything, because I want good stuff out there. If it's going to have our name on it, it's damn well going to be the best quality I can make it be.
Okay, we're talking about ourselves a lot here. But
Yeah.
very quickly, where do you see the process of making kilts going in the future? Is it going to be the same because it's always going to be tartan and leather straps? Or do you think technology is going to affect how kilts are made?
Technology has affected how kilts are made.
Okay.
30 years ago, 40 years ago, they were all hand-sewn 8-yard kilts. Then, production in, third world countries, started making cheap kilts. So that kind of forced Scotland to make things faster and, kind of ramp things up.
Okay.
There's most of the kilts coming out of Scotland now are still machine sewn kilts. There's a company over there that all they do is make kilts, and they don't put in horsehair canvas lining. They put in a fusible lining inside the kilt.
Fusible webbing. That stuff.
It's not something I would do, but it's effectively heat treated, glued into there. So that has cut a few steps out of the process, which again, takes a certain amount of time out. There's companies that everyone has their own shortcuts to get to the finished product. There's 100 different ways to skin a cat, and it's still a skinned cat. Oh, that's my new phrase.
Delicious.
Yes, I don't want a graphic for that, by the way.
Okay.
Yeah, noted.
No cat.
No skinned cats. But it's as long as it's a pleated garment, to the knee, pleats on the back, flat apron on the front, it's effectively a kilt. So there's a lot of different ways to get to the same finished thing. I don't see that basic definition changing anytime soon.
Okay.
The ways you get to the finished product might change through different sewing techniques, through using machine to sew versus hand sewing, cheating, either skipping steps, which some companies do, or putting in fusible lining versus a hand sewn lining. There's a few different ways to get around things to the same finished product.
Okay.
Quality will differ based on that, but it's not going to change too much.
Okay.
I don't see 3D printing kilts anytime soon.
Yeah, probably not.
No.
Probably not.
Mac?
Okay.
The
3D printing kilts? Should we do it?
it'd be interesting.
How about 3D printed sporins? 3D printed jewelry is too easy. I mean, you could do cap badges and kilt pins 3D
True.
printed, but
I mean, there's only as far as where the kilt is going to go. There's only so many directions that it's taken this long. How many centuries to get to this point? And not a lot has. There's things that have changed, but not a ton has changed.
that's kind of the point.
I mean, really, the only thing that's potentially could change if there's some sort of fabric that eventually comes around that you could dial in your own tartan or put a card in and the tartan appears on this material, this piece of material.
Wow.
Like that, other than that, is not much other than like the little subtleties that here and there is going to change.
Okay.
Fashion could change.
Right.
But nothing as far as garment construction wise, I don't see changing much.
Okay.